What time is it?
Ah, yes, it's Howdy Doody time once again. The little puppet with the freckles and his pal Buffalo Bob Smith have become two of the biggest legends in television history. Millions of kids tuned in to watch the show between 1947 and 1960. And Bob Smith has written a book now about how the show came to be and what went on backstage. It's called Howdy and Me, Buffalo Bob's own story. And Bob Smith joins us this morning. It's so great to have you. You're in the outfit.
I had to wear it because they thought I might be Clarabelle. How are you, Joan?
I'm fine. Take us back. I mean, so many interesting stories in the book. One of them that I thought was very interesting is back in the very beginning. The first Howdy Doody really was a voice.
Yeah, we started a show called Triple B Ranch, which is a radio show.
Yeah.
Just local radio in New York. And it was on that show that Howdy Doody was born. My writer said to me, we should have some comedy on the show. Do you do any voices? So I came up with this Mortimer Snurdish country bumpkin type character that we called Elmer. And I'd say, oh, here's Elmer. Hi, Elmer. And he'd say, oh, well, howdy doody.
And that's how Howdy Doody
And that's how it all
about.
started. Then the kids, see, this is radio, so we didn't have a dummy or a puppet. I just talked to myself. But the kids would come in and see the show, and invariably they'd say, gee, we're disappointed. We wanted to see Howdy Doody. Well, this gave us two ideas. We won't call him Elmer. We'll call him Howdy. It's a cuter name. And if they want to see Howdy, we'll talk with the television people, which we did. And at the time, NBC was looking for a kids' television show. They watched our radio show, and they said, this is great. We had a puppet show in mind. We'll make another puppet. We'll call him Howdy Doody. You can host the whole thing.
This was on a Tuesday, and when did they want to start this program?
This was Tuesday, December 23rd, 1947. I said, when do we go on the air? And they said, Saturday, which was December 27th. So, of course, we didn't have a puppet. We didn't have anything. But they said, but we want Howdy on the program. And I said, well, okay. So I pretended that Howdy was in my desk drawer.
Too shy to come out or something on television?
Well, he was too bashful to come out.
Yeah, a little stage shy.
Yeah, so I said, Howdy, you coming out? And he'd say, oh, no, I'm too bashful.
So you gave yourself an extra week or two to make this new puppet?
He was too bashful for 3 weeks until we had him made. And on that third week show, we had him in the drawer, opened the drawer, and then the unveiling of Howdy Doody.
So he finally came out. That was Howdy Doody number 1.
Mm-hmm.
But then, why did you have to get a Howdy Doody number 2?
Well, Frank Paris, our puppeteer at the time, was paid by NBC $500 to make the puppet, an outright make. I owned the name, NBC owned the puppet, per se. So a toy buyer from Macy's came over and said, why don't you make a doll? We're getting many requests to buy a Howdy Doody doll. So when Frank came in with a puppet, Frank heard all this, and he thought he should get half the royalties. And NBC said, well, no, we own it. We paid you to make the puppet. And he said, well, if you think you own the puppet, I'll take him home. So he walked right out of the studio at about 12:30.
And that was the end of that.
Yeah, so we had
I'll
to
take
come
my
up,
puppet and go home.
I'll take my puppets and go. So dollies, really. So here we got to go on the air at 5:30.
Oh, my gosh.
So what do? We don't have a puppet.
He got a shy attack again.
Well, thank God, Eddie Keene, our writer, and Roger Muir, our producer, and we came up with the idea that Howdy at the time was running for president of all the kids in the United States. It was 1948, an election year. So we wrote in the story of the script for that night that Howdy was out campaigning in Portland, Oregon. We made it just as far as we could.
Set him on the campaign trail.
That's right. He met his adversary, Mr. X, and he said he's very handsome. He'll get all the votes from the girls, so I've got to have a facelift. But don't worry, kids. It's just a little plastic surgery. It won't hurt, not even as much as having a tooth pulled. Don't worry about it. So we stalled. We stalled for 3 weeks until we had another puppet made.
Where are those puppets today?
Well, Howdy is in my home in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. And the rest of the puppets are in the custody of our puppeteer, Patty Blackwood.
It was such a great, great show. You should bring it back someday.
Well, we'd
Kids
like
today
to.
Would like it.
Clarabelle and I do 25, 30 mall appearances a year, and everybody says, why isn't Howdy back? And I have, I sold the rights to NBC back in 1951, very foolishly. I didn't sell Buffalo Bob, but I sold all the other puppets. And I've written to Brandon Tartikoff, I've written to everybody. Everybody says, see, we have at least 1,700 kinescopes. And Howdy and I could do wraparounds on these kines, and it'd make a great show because there were some precious scenes that happened in those past
and then we'd
13
hear,
years.
It's Howdy Doody time again.
You got that's the national anthem. Everybody stand, please.
Buffalo Bob, it's great to see you again. I spent many, many days watching you.
Joan, thank you so much. A real pleasure to be here with you.
And we'll be back in just a moment.